This review is made to deliver the detailed analysis of the sound on CAMELOT. There won't be any face cam since I am reading this 13-page long review on my computer screen to give you the most accurate description of the sound. I will try to manage your low attention span by providing clips and text, but this review is for those who really want an exhaustive review of this IEM. I provided the timestamps so that you can skip to the sections you are mostly interested in. So what is the purpose of an expensive IEM? On one hand, this amount can be easily spent to get something truly endgame even in headphones. So why would anyone spend this much money on an IEM? Is it worth the price? Is it justified to spend this much on an IEM? There is already a lot of people out there who would happily spend this much money on an headphone but not on an IEM. One thing for sure, when you spend anything above $1,500, there is no compromises that can be tolerated. And IEMs like this never existed few years ago. The improvement IEMs got in the recent years in pure sound quality is nothing sort of exemplary. But still, is it wise to spend this much money on an IEM? To mention the spec of this IEM, it houses 2 dynamic drivers, 4 balanced armature drivers and 4 electrostatic drivers, which make this IEM 13 ohms in impedance and 114 dB loud in 1 mW, which translates to how sensitive it is or how loud it can sound even on very low power. Not just that it produces very practical sound for my library. I will discuss the sound quality of this IEM in a bit, but to start things up, this IEM sounds like if ZMF made IEMs instead of headphones. The mellow flavor of the sweetness with enriched representation of the timbre, the musical tonality without sacrificing the technical aspects. The only thing is this IEM shell feels like a less expensive one. Like, I got that you need to decide on material and shell design in such a way that it takes positive effect on the sound, but at this price, I would have liked a bit more better looking IEM with a bit more heft to it. It might be a beneficial thing for you, but the IEM is super light in hand, which is very practical in the sense that you can wear it for a longer time. They didn't included a pressure vent or grill on this IEM, which surprisingly didn't cause an air pressure buildup issue in my eardrums, which happened before with other IEMs. Although the driver flex is noticeable, which adds to the whole factor of not recognizing it as an expensive IEM. But things do change when sound comes into the picture. This is where you would notice why this IEM costs this much. As I said earlier, at this price, no compromises should be tolerated. There is no such explanations or exceptions like this is good for bass but mids are lacking. This thing is good for the mids but bass is shy. Nothing can be tolerated at this price. What I feel that this ultra high-end IEM should have, apart from being good in every aspect, 2 or 3 attributes that can make you go like, man, this is why it costs this much, and this is I never felt before. Is this the one that did it for me, where I went like, this is why it costs $2,600 and I am willing to pay that much? Let's find out. To start things off, we are not going to discuss how it feels and everything related to that. The only thing now matters is how it sounds. This IEM is not perfect by any means, it has its flaws, I will discuss them too. So give you a brief about how this IEM sounds. It sounds like a vintage speaker, and that's exactly how it sounds. I felt nostalgic while using this IEM in span of 2 weeks, no pun intended. Not kidding, I played few old songs and I felt like I was sitting in sofa listening to my dad's speaker system. There were a lot of time I sat still and stared at abyss in awe. I laughed, I cried. So at that point I felt that my bias get into the analysis of this headphone. So what I did, I reviewed this IEM on songs that I just heard recently. That is purely for review purposes, which has no emotional values attached to it, and I got a pretty well experience in those songs too with different IEMs. And after that, I got the hang of this IM. It might look like I was enjoying my childhood memories, but it was kinda tough, believe me. I will not give credit to CAMELOT for this because it might be a fluke or psychic ability that might get an illusion. No matter whose credit it is, all it did was amaze me in a way that no other IM in any price point did it. Like ever. The tonality of this IM that you might have guessed is warm neutral. Never in its run it felt dark or veiled, even a tiny bit. Although I am not getting a feeling that the 4 EST drivers are in action since the treble is very smooth. Well, I was wrong. Like, I will discuss this thing later in the subjective tape on this IM, but I will dive deeper into objective analysis of this IM and stay tuned for that too. The sub bass of this IM is not much in quantity, but things that come with a not so huge bass shelf is not there. Forget about thinness, this IM feels fuller than the huge bass cannons. The quality of the bass is exemplary. It increases weight of the sound. Each instrument feel like they are real and physical. Hollow 16-bit remix won't sound super thumpy, but at the 36-second mark the sub bass sounds fuller, it rattles the eardrum. But the attack is not very thumpy. The textures and details are excellent in the sub bass. The textures felt real. No treble trickery involved in the detail retrieval of this section. The roots by long R felt very real and the sound coming out of it was very natural. It felt like I'm in a bar with wooden walls and smoke, which is hard to convey through words, but this type of presentation is made for a glass of whiskey on your desk, and I heavily miss that since I'm in my parents' home. Mid bass too is oriented towards a better tonality and representation instead of the amplitude. All the things that are mentioned in the sub bass sections applies here too. We All Have Dreams by Louis the Child sounds very natural even though it has a very mid-bass focused track. It never outdone itself, it always contained itself to feel neutral through and through. Even on the songs like Anthology by Overdeck, it didn't offer a huge thump, although the bass was again well textured, controlled and very natural. So in conclusion, what do we have to say about its bass performance? CAMELOT is bass boosted and not up to the level where it can rival Basshead. The elevation is very tasteful, decently impactful, very good with texture and detail in this region, doesn't bleed into the mids even a tiny bit. Now coming to the mids of this headphone, this is where the money is at. The mids on this IM is sublime. Think of any characteristics which can make mid sound delightful, it has that. Richness is all there with it full glory. Resolution, you won't feel it was lacking resolution. Details, every instrument sounded fuller and the spectrum was clear. Texturing is amazing. Weight and heft, it has it in full thump. Timbre is really enriched and mellow. The lower mids especially is unmatched with this IM. If you listen to your favorite singers, I can guarantee that you will cry for sure at some point. The mids are stupid good, there is not much to say. No Sanctuary here by Chris Jones sounds like he's in front of you in an empty chamber with all the instruments. The details are so vivid, with intoxicating tonality. Hey Jude by Beatles never felt so balanced, not overly warm, and real. As I said, it sounds like a vintage speaker. Coming to the upper mids, I thought it won't sound as good as the lower mids due to the safer nature of the upper mids, and God, I was wrong. The EST implemented in this IM showed its magic. Let's take an example. Somewhere Over the Rainbow by Melissa Menago sounded so full with this IM that it is hard to describe by words. The airiness, the extension somehow came to show itself all of a sudden. The lower mids are making the vocals rich and weighty at the same time. I will discuss this at the objective review too, so do check it out. The upper mid attributes like glitteriness, sparkle, shine somehow appear suddenly. The extension into the right side of the lower mids are so musical and easy for long listening sessions, while providing these qualities is simply exceptional. In the song The Raven, the reverbs are so vivid and tonally it is so pleasing with airiness that it was unmatched, even for a IM that is have elevation in upper mids too. Although there is one catch. To enjoy female vocals, I have to turn up the volume quite a lot, which doesn't suffice my low listening sessions, like low volume listening sessions, but it is an exchange that I would happily accept. On the treble, it does a bit of safeguard. The treble section of this IEM is not aggressive at all, and it is not veiled or recessed either. It does benefit from ESTs to fine grain the adjustment. The separation from notes to notes is excellent. This IEM handles the treble pretty well for both treble lovers and treble sensitive people. Mostly because of that, it can be a low or high volume set depending on the treble preference. It excels in mid-range in both high and low volumes. The bass gets even better at higher volumes. All in all, the treble on this IEM is very airy and snappy. It might sound a bit safe on lower volumes, but increasing the volume it will sound a lot more elevated. Treble might not be a wow factor of the CAMELOT, but for sure it does complement the mid and bass section well. I always look at the graph after listening to the IEM for 1 or 2 weeks, so rest assured that my graph readings are not affected, or my listening are not affected by the graphs anyhow. So by saying that, now if we talk about the objective performance of this headphone, so this is the graph. Thanks to hiresaudio providing the 5128 graph for the CAMELOT. So as you can see, the sub bass is 3 or 4 dB elevated, which might not look as great on paper, but it feels huge in ear. I already said that sub bass is not much in quantity, but incredible in all its quality. As far as I've seen, these tasteful sub bass extension do feel great with organic music, which have that analog essence to them, which might not be a great for digitally produced music that requires huge amount of sub bass to offer the third, the thump. But again, don't go by the numbers. The sub bass is not small even by a single tiny bit. It feels full and room filling. It can't extract bass from bass shy music though, so if you like music that is, this thing will do the job. But it can't extract bass from bass shy music. So if you like music that is a bit on the unnatural but fun side of things, this thing do the job well. The later part of the sub bass, as you can see, is elevated and creating an arch. This kind of tuning has a bit of love and hate relationship with me, where the Soft Ears Twilight is one of the best IEMs I heard, period, which follows the same arch philosophy. But things like Pen on 10th came a bit of with problem for me with the stock cable. In the lower mid range especially, the vocals, which is an odd thing for me since Twilight and CAMELOT reached far beyond what Pen on did with 10th. If you think why I'm comparing a $2,600 IEM to a $800 one or a $500 IEM, this section of the video is just for objective review. Remember that each of these IEM justifies their price point extremely well, and I'm not going by how worthy are them. It's just an objective take. So coming back to the point, how's the arch? Extremely pleasing sounding, to be honest. It is not natural, but I prefer this over a natural sound. Natural is not boring, but color is fun too. The mid-bass glide, as you can see there, is very far-fetched. It adds to the whole warmth of the sound of this IEM that it is targeting. Now comes to the extremely interesting choice that I have to thank nostalgia for, the 700 to 1.2 kHz hump. It does something with the sound so beautifully that I haven't figured out I need it. How would you like your female vocalist? Airy, sparkly, glittering? Guess what? You need them hefty too. This particular region adds a lot of weight to the female vocals, which I didn't know I needed. I was quite surprised by the representation for sure. I would miss this tuning in future very much. This is also interesting because usually companies do a very different approach to this section, provide a bit more soundstage to the sound. After that, this IEM took all the safe approaches there is, but the most interesting part of the frequency above 2 kHz is the 3K deep and 4K peak. This does so many things to the sound. First, the 3 kHz deep pushback instrument, and the vocalist gets a boost in popping up in the stage. Takes the forwardness of certain instruments and eliminates each and every honkiness in your music can have. Then the 4K peak, which gives all of that majestic nature of the female vocals in form of sparkle, shine or glitteriness is there too. Safer approach to the 5K can be noticed, which helped to hide wronggoings in the badly recorded music. 6K is safe too, just a bit elevated to give the masking a bit more definition in the details. Although I think nostalgia might have tricked psychoacoustics to believe it is a single DD. The graph might indicate that this IEM is peaky at some places, but I kid you not, this is the most refined treble I heard. The rest of the treble is fairly safe and never caused me sibilance even at loud volumes too. To give you a reference, I find 464 Audio Forte a lot worse at this price point, and CAMELOT just beat it to the dust if we talk about the tonality. Even after 7K dip, the 10K elevation does a lot of presence for me. It makes the treble alive even though it is safe to my ears, which is an incredible achievement itself. After that, the airiness and air frequencies are well preserved. You might feel that you need extra airiness, but it is apt as a safe tuning. Although it has plenty of air, it's just not upfront. The treble section does one thing pretty spectacularly, and nothing sounds bad in this IEM. No matter what you feed them, how bad the recording is, how trash the recordings are, it will produce a richer, more denser version of that song. Now if you talk about the technicalities, it justifies its price. Pinpointing instruments is not an issue at all. The images are laser focused and concentrated to a more natural scope rather than a point. Layering, though, is not that impressive. The soundstage helps the layering to project itself in a further fashion, but the layers are a bit too close to one another. The soundstage is the mix between being personal and being expansive. It was needed since this IEM will be used to invoke emotions. The height, though, is very tall and feels like headphones. It sounds big and the projection is very large. Before ending the review, I would like to mention that this IEM is being reviewed by the Lancelot cable, which is also a creation of the Nostalgia. This cable provides substantial improvements in some cases, but in some cases I prefer the normal cable too. Mainly the cable enhanced the technical aspects of this IEM a bit. The overall resolution got a bit of improvement. The cable cost somewhere around $1,150, so it makes this expensive IEM even more expensive. I would like to say that again it does benefit from tip rolling. The tips I used is mostly the Revenus Velvet, and the tip balanced everything tonally and technically. The foam tips are very 3D and holographic, with a sacrifice in the soundstage a bit. Everything just feels 360 degree with that tip. The included silicone one, I didn't use those because they were too small and it was not fitting in the nozzle, and I was scared to break the nozzle. The overall tonally more balanced was the white tips, which came with a silicone pouch, provided the treble to be a little more upfront, and that too opened up the soundstage a bit. Now let's answer the question I had while starting this review. What is the purpose of an expensive IEM? The only purpose of spending this much money on an IEM is comfort. You can just carry ZMF headphones on a train or a bus. This thing you can. Although if you are spending more than $1,000 on an IEM, I suppose you would have a car, but you'd get my point, right? It's hi-fi in pocket, and it sounds better, and if not the same level as headphone setups, around $2,000. So why would anyone spend this much money on an IEM? Surely this IEM especially is for someone who wants to invest in one IEM and they want to quit the hobby. This is a walkaway set for someone who is chasing musical sound in portable use. Is it worth the price? It depends. The quality of music it produces is simply unmatched to me. I have heard IEMs priced like this and they don't even do 50% of what this IEM does. Is it worth the price? Blindly, without a second thought, if you have the money, this IEM worth every penny. It is justified to spend this much on an IEM. Again, you want true flagship level hi-fi sound in your pocket? If yes, then this IEM worth every and each penny. What you can expect from this price point of IEMs? It is a huge responsibility of a reviewer to say it to an IEM that costs 30% of the average salary of an average person living in his country. So should you buy this IEM if you have the money? If you want each of your songs to sound good without harshness even a bit, if you want natural yet enriched representation of the songs you are listening for your whole life, and dip your toes in real nostalgia, get this IEM eyes closed. I have my full recommendation with it.